Hello, my friends. Boy, I'm grateful for this dog. So, today we're going to talk about a point from Robert Eamon's book, and it's called Gratitude by Contrast. And essentially, what he's talking about, and I think it's something I just wanted to expand on, the idea that by not having gratitude in your life around a particular situation, whether you express it or you feel you didn't receive it in some way, um, you notice it's an invitation to become more grateful. So this idea that you don't have lightness without darkness, there would be no need for that. You're just in the light, you could say, right? But there's no separation. And they say we're all one anyway, right? So we're all one, and there's no separation. And through in this world, we have duality. So by contrast, we can appreciate the times when we aren't recognized or when you don't recognize others, and then you can see that people are a reflection of what's going on inside of yourself. Like a situation that you have or you're experiencing is something that you're going through and that other person is. And at a spiritual level, believe it or not, well, he doesn't go into that level, but there's something going on behind the scenes that's helping you to work out something. So it's almost at a soul level that you've agreed to this before you were born. Sometimes some of these major plays that are predestined in your life are there to design a certain level of soul growth so that you can have the contrast. So what that means is you don't have to get too caught up at a situation in a interpersonal level. So in other words, you might have invited certain situations for purposes of your soul growth. And I think that understanding first and then going to the interpersonal dynamic can help you to lessen kind of any kind of situation where you feel there needs to be a certain kind of treatment or something. Now that doesn't mean you don't learn the lesson and grow from it. I think one thing that I'm going to talk about just came up today in terms of my career development class. There were students asking about this as far as, well, tell me about cases where you don't get credit at work and where your bosses don't seem grateful. I had a couple students mention, for example, that there are times where they know of stories, and I've heard of stories in my own cases where bosses they've had, in their companies, uh, you know, previous situations, they haven't acknowledged, or if, in some cases, people have taken ideas. And I think what's important is by not receiving recognition, by not receiving gratitude in those instances, you do want to assert yourself and document it. The reason is you have performance evaluations. And in performance evaluations, they are interested in knowing what you did do and what you didn't. And sometimes people are so overwhelmed, bosses are so overwhelmed that they're not noticing what you're doing specifically. You think they are. In some cases they are, in some cases they're not. They won't know as well as you do what you've done. And I remember too, with teachers that I've had, part-time teachers, I remember in my last college, one of the things that I remember doing is we would document and chart their progress. And you would sit down, and generally your department chair would go over the evaluations, but noting the accomplishments and sharing that information can help you, and it can help in that sense of feeling that there's a sense of appreciation, a sense of gratitude, and it also can mean a pay raise or greater responsibilities later on. So I think with gratitude, it's okay to have a little bit of coaching. It's nice to, got to be careful with the expectations, and notice in the contrast, by having a little bit of a differentiation around it and public acknowledgement sometimes people give it privately or not at all. Just keep going forward in a situation that's personal, professional, social, community related. And I'm beginning to realize that because, as Alan Cohen talks about this, that because everybody's a piece of God and you're seeing the contrast, then that's fine. That means there are no mistakes, and that's a whole other clip. But that idea that even in the contracts there's a perfection, there's a learning going on, right? So I'm teaching you, you're teaching me, and then you can kind of understand that even if you have an ego about a situation, that's in the way of things, but you don't need to have it. And Anyway, as far as a workplace situation, document it, interpersonal communicate, and understand that you got to keep plowing through. And there is going to be a little bit of a situation where you're going to have gratitude by contrast because you don't receive it or you don't feel that you're the beneficiary of it. You can still give it. You can still remind yourself, oh, I need to work on something in myself and be more attentive to other people's needs. It can serve as a catalyst in terms of your own self-understanding to give back instead of expecting people to just give it when you think they need to. Now, that being said, again, pay attention to what we talked about in the workplace, that you still may want to document your actions for your performance evaluations and things like that. Well, I hope that little clip helped. I'll be talking more about that later on. And the next clip is we're going to talk more about that idea of credit in the workplace and sharing credit, and the importance of getting teams involved around credit versus a solo mission around credit. So hope you're having a great day. Talk to you later.